are back with another episode of the Tan and J-Man Show. As you can see, Tanner's ugly mug is not on the TV tonight. He is on vacation in Florida, so we are joined with our good friend Aaron Lynch. How you doing tonight there, Lynch?
Good. How about yourself, J-Man?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Have you been on before?
Only in when you guys did golf segments.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I remember you calling in once. I don't think you've been since we've been doing it on ISC Sports Network. I don't think you've been on, but
Nope.
Glad to have you here on this frigid February Valentine's Day. I didn't even realize it's Valentine's Day till I got home. Completely forgot.
Your fiance is not going to be happy about that. It's not a way to start an engagement.
I got real lucky that my fiance could not care less about Valentine's Day. So I am so thankful I don't have to make some expensive restaurant reservation tonight.
That is good to hear.
Yep. So I got some birdie bogey for you.
All right.
You are an NBA fan, so I decided to give you an NBA question tonight. Nikola Jokic recorded his 15th triple-double this season versus Boston. He joined four other NBA players to have multiple seasons with 15 or more triple-doubles. Can you name those four other players? That's a tough one. You got about 58 minutes to do that. But Birdie Bogey is brought to you by Noble Gnome LLC for fresh, locally grown, nutrient-dense produce from Bryce and Katie Romine of Mentone, Indiana. Like them on Facebook, follow them on Instagram, and check out their website, noblegnomellc.com. Get your veggies! Let's just start off with the Super Bowl. It was obviously played last night. What were your thoughts on that?
Going in, I thought it was going to be a blowout. I really did. I know you and I texted back and forth. I really was surprised about how well the Bengals played that third quarter and still kept in that game. And coming down to a final possession and Matthew Stafford to have every weapon pretty much taken away from him and Cooper Kupp just getting it done on that drive is what I'm going to remember about that Super Bowl.
Yeah, OBJ blows out his knee. They think he tore his ACL. Of course, he caught the first touchdown of the game, and he'd really been a godsend to them with Robert Woods missing majority of the season, second half of the season anyway. Picking up OBJ, and he, you know what? I could not stand him when he was with the Cleveland Browns, but he actually turned into kind of a likable guy when he was in Los Angeles for whatever reason. I don't know why that is. Maybe. Go ahead.
You might be in minority because I still don't. I think he's a prima donna, a lot of other wide receivers.
Yeah, and he's got some prima donna qualities, but for whatever reason, I was kind of rooting for him last night. I usually don't root for him, but I was last night. And then, of course, he blows out his knee. They were without Tyler Higbee as well. I mean, Purdue boy Bryson Hopkins had 3 or 4 catches.
I was voting for him for MVP. I was hoping he'd, get the game-winning touchdown. That way, Purdue football could hang their hat on, and maybe Darrell Hazel takes a little bit of credit for that one too.
Yeah, Darrell Hazel gets some credit for that one. But Cooper Kupp was kind of quiet till that last drive, and then he had so many huge catches. I mean, he had that huge first down run on 4th and 1 at their own 30. They do not pick that up, they probably lose that ball game.
Yeah, I would have to say agree with you if they don't pick that up. And for Cooper Kupp, in that knowing that he's getting everything, probably that secondary shifting straight to him, and then they're bringing that 4-man rush, which that was my surprise, was the defensive line of the Bengals getting to Stafford last night and the lack of run game that the Rams had. So, I mean, for Cooper Kupp to get open and make himself open, you got to give him props. I have to think this is probably one of the best all-time wide receiver seasons in history.
Absolutely.
Falling short of, Triple Crown and just falling short of Megatron's record. And then to top it off with an MVP votes that he did receive and then win Super Bowl MVP. I don't think I can name one that's better than his.
Yeah, he was on my fantasy team that didn't help me win the championship this year, but I was very happy to have him on my team. But yeah, he put, every game it seemed like he was Okay, he's going to get at least 8 catches. He's going to have over 100 yards, probably a touchdown as well. And then that's exactly what he did in the Super Bowl and ended up catching 2 touchdowns. And I mean, the lack of run game with the Rams was surprising. I think Cam Akers had maybe 15 yards rushing last night.
Yeah, and they were subbing him in and out. Sony Michel, who they traded for, really wasn't, a factor in that game. I mean, they were, putting Henderson in a lot of one-on-one situations with Wilson, getting him out to the space on a lot of those pick routes. But yeah, I was just shocked that, Sean McVay being, how they got to the last Super Bowl, running Gurley and then CJ Anderson in those playoffs, not really wanting to run the ball, really making Matthew Stafford go win the game for you in that defensive line.
Yeah, and Bengals defensive line was great. I know they had a couple sacks last night, including one on the first drive. Secondary was fantastic as well. I mean, they picked off Stafford twice, including right after halftime, after they had threw a bomb on the first play for a touchdown, and they picked off Stafford. And thinking, man, the Cincinnati Bengals team is a team of destiny, and it kind of felt that way all night up until that final drive.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's your thoughts on that pass interference call at the goal line? Were you thinking Wilson was holding Kupp there? Because I didn't see that.
No, and the ball was thrown behind Kupp as well. It wasn't a good throw. He kind of grabbed him, I guess. Probably could have been like maybe an illegal contact. Was that third down too, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, that was third down because that would have been fourth down, and they would have had to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I saw fans complain about it, especially Bengals fans, but I mean, Bengals got away with a face mask on a long touchdown or a long pass to T. Higgins there. So, yeah. I mean, it kind of evens out a little bit. And honestly, I thought it could have gone either way. It was kind of a 50-50 kind of coin flip there. But, I mean, if I was a fan of the Bengals, I'd probably be really ticked off because, I mean, it probably wasn't enough to throw the flag, but he ended up throwing the flag anyway. But, I mean, it is what it is.
So what's going to be your everlasting moment that you'll remember from Super Bowl 56?
Aaron Donald pointing to his ring finger after he forced Joe Burrow into an incomplete pass. I mean, he was dominant. Honestly, if Cooper Kupp wouldn't have caught those 2 touchdowns, Donald's easy MVP. I mean, the Rams defensive line did exactly what I think most people thought they would to the horrendous Bengals offensive line. That was the worst offensive line I think we've ever seen in the Super Bowl. They gave up seven sacks, I think, which tied the record for most ever.
Yep. Because they showed it was against Roger Staubach. It tied Roger Staubach's record with Joe Burrow being sacked the most times.
Yeah.
Back in Super Bowl 10.
Which, I mean, their offensive line was terrible last year, and they did nothing to fix it. It was kind of a miracle they ended up winning. Wow, they won 10 games this year. And then they ran the table to the Super Bowl. It's kind of a miracle because Burrow's been running for his life, which just shows you the kind of moxie and playmaking ability Joe Burrow has to continue to perform. Because that offensive line, especially last night, which, I mean, nobody's a match for Aaron Donald. He's one of the greatest players maybe to ever play the NFL, regardless of position. And he just absolutely dominated last night.
Absolutely. He's going to be up there with LT. I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no doubt in my mind, once in generational talent. If Vaughn made one more sack, I thought maybe Vaughn could have got another Super Bowl MVP. I mean, he was dominant as well, but that offensive line was definitely going to any side Donald was on. And credit Raheem Morris for making those adjustments at halftime.
Yeah, and it's every game they throw 2-3 guys at Donald, and he still finds a way to wreak havoc. He's due to his size. They say too small, which is insane when you look at the guy now. That dude is a monster.
He's in a class by himself inside. I mean, he's lower to ground. It's like kind of Maurice Jones-Drew kind of deal, being a smaller running back, being more powerful, just now on the opposite side of the ball and getting off as fast as he is off the ball. He's in the backfield almost every play. So
his strength is unbelievable.
It absolutely is. So looking forward, because I know you being a Dolphins fan, and let's look forward for the Bengals. Do you think they get back, or is this Joe Burrow has a career like Dan Marino?
I was just about to bring up Marino, actually. Burrow said after the game, they're a young team, and he's very confident they'll be back. But at the same time, you can't take these opportunities for granted. You still have to deal with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, Josh Allen in Buffalo, maybe Aaron Rodgers in Denver, even. Who knows?
Don't forget
At this
about Lamar
point.
Jackson in his own
Don't,
division.
yes, yeah, exactly. Don't forget about Lamar Jackson. I mean, you're having a changing of the guard there in Pittsburgh. Probably a changing of the guard in Cleveland as well. Probably should happen. Lamar Jackson, I mean, just 2 years ago, he wins the MVP. Then he had some injury issues this year, of course.
That whole
But
team
yeah,
did.
the entire team did it. And who knows, it might have been a different story for Cincinnati had Baltimore stayed healthy. You can't take the opportunities for granted. I mean, they are a young team and they're a good team, but again, they need to take every healthy. I thought he got significantly injured again last night. He was holding his knee and he was yelling pretty loud on the field. Got to keep him upright. They have the weapons: Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Just need to keep him upright.
They do, and I think the issue is we both know that's one of the cheapest franchises in the NFL. Do they go out and
Absolutely.
try
Small market?
Small market. It's in a not a free agent destination. Can they lure in an offensive lineman free agent to come play with Joe Burrow? I mean that's enticing, but I think this is a team that's got to build through the draft.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at the Green Bay Packers. They've never built through free agency, and they're always good. Now, they've been fortunate to land on 2 franchise quarterbacks over the past 30 years, which, I mean, that could be the same thing with the Cincinnati Bengals. And the fact they have Joe Burrow there will help entice free agents more than an Andy Dalton did or whatever, of course.
Correct.
But, they need to build through the draft, and they've done a good job of building through the draft so far. Now, could this 1 year be a fluke? I could easily see them finishing like 3rd in the North next year. I think they're a good team and Joe Burrow's got it. But again, who knows how they're going to fix the offensive line because it's in desperate need.
It is. And I mean, it was the right decision picking Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell at that point. I mean, you can't disagree with that choice. But yeah, they might be 2nd or 3rd in that division. I think the Browns, could come back and make some noise. It depends what Baker's trajectory is, and can he limit the turnovers? But the AFC is still a hard division. You still have the Titans and the teams you named. I mean, and don't discount the Colts. Next year. I mean, Irsay's going to pull all stops to try to get to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and speaking of the Colts, it looks like they're going to do everything in their power to get rid of Carson Wentz.
I was actually, I don't know about you, but seeing the amount of NFL news broke before the Super Bowl yesterday was kind of surprising. And seeing that report, it doesn't surprise me, but I don't know what they can get for Carson Wentz. I mean, maybe Tampa Bay is the only team I can see going after him, or Washington.
Which I know I read yesterday as well before the Super Bowl, and that could just be like a Super Bowl news dump where they know people are going to talk about the Super Bowl. They're going to try to sneak it in there so no one talks about it. It was reported that they are going to make serious inquiries on Deshaun Watson, and they're going to try everything in their power to trade for Russell Wilson. So they're going to try this good veteran quarterback thing again. It worked out pretty well last time. Signing Tom Brady, but
the issue with both those quarterbacks are they have no trade clauses. So if they don't want to come to Indy, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't see Sierra wanting to be in Indianapolis. So count her out. And Deshaun Watson, I don't see the Texans trading, into an in division rival in the Colts. There's just no way.
Well, I was actually talking about Tampa Bay was reported as.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. The Deshaun Watson one, the Tampa Bay makes sense, but I don't see Wilson going there at all. I think Wilson's has his select few cities, and I think that's where it's going to be. We just have to see what Aaron Rodgers does in the next few weeks here. Right. So, and that'll be the first domino to fall.
From the sounds of it, the relationship with Green Bay's the best it's been in years. So I think he'll end up staying there or he'll retire. Again, he's such a drama queen. It's so he loves the attention. He acts like he hates the attention, but Aaron Rodgers absolutely loves the attention he gets. He has a LeBron James like quality in that aspect. Do you think he's played his last game in Green Bay?
It's difficult. I don't see him playing anywhere else. I see him probably trying it maybe one more time in Green Bay. I mean, they'll push out the cap further down the road and make it happen. They're going to tag Devontae Adams. I mean, it's going to happen. We'll have to see what cuts they're going to make. I mean, the issue with that team, though, I think is does Bakhtiari come back? And I think that's the biggest thing for Rodgers because he needs all the protection and he rolls out to the right. I mean, he's going to throw it down the field, but I think that's the biggest thing right now. So him staying in Green Bay is not an issue, I think.
Yeah, and I can't imagine Devontae Adams going anywhere else. And they're going to tag him, as you said. They said that the contract for Rodgers would look like something like 2 years, $90 million, $45 million a year. That's enough to want to stay in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Oh, that absolutely. A place where he's revered and they'll build a statue out
absolutely
for him. So, I mean, it's going to be a great, hot stove discussion this offseason, especially with looks like a subpar QB draft, but a stock defensive line draft for sure. So, it'll be interesting to see how teams jockey in position to try to get, a true franchise quarterback or what they think is the next franchise quarterback and try to replicate the Rams' success.
Yeah. And last year's offseason was a big quarterback offseason as well. I mean, the whole thing was about where Rodgers is going to end up. And now it seems like, or Deshaun Watson too. It seems like this year is going to be the exact same. The new league year starts March 16th. Free agency will begin at 4 p.m. New York time. So got a month, essentially, which NFL free agency is fun because those first 3 days, it's boom, 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 boom. It's so much. So much action.
Schefter and Rappaport just dropping tweets left and right. So
I can't imagine how stressed they are that day.
They live for that day, though.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So it's fun for them. Before we wrap up Super Bowl, I have to ask, what do you think of the halftime show?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was a millennial's dream. I was a huge Eminem and Dr. Dre fan back in high school. I don't listen to him as much anymore, but it was such a nostalgia trip.
It definitely was. Did you think it was 10, 15 years too late, though?
No. I mean, they kind of do halftime shows for the demographic they're trying to reach. And now we are the demographic they're trying to get to watch the Super Bowl. No, I mean, those songs, if it was 15 years ago, those songs wouldn't have been that old at that point.
Right.
And I guess Kendrick Lamar was the newest guy up there, which his songs were the newest, and they're still quite a bit older. But I absolutely loved it.
Oh, I thought it was a good halftime show. I don't think it tops Prince.
Prince's halftime was good. Yeah,
that was, I think, the best of all time. And but it in our lifetime, we've seen the Rolling Stones, we've seen the Who. This was way better, much better than that.
U2, we saw Bruno Mars, Beyonce did it, Katy Perry,
Maroon 5.
Maroon 5, Red Hot Chili Peppers. You remember that year?
Yep, I do. That's kind of what. And we've seen JT twice, Justin Timberlake.
Yep.
I was actually surprised they didn't run with more of a California outside Snoop Dogg on that and Dre. I thought they were going to bring more California artists since that was like the first time being back in LA for a long time.
Yeah, which I mean, Kendrick Lamar's LA. But a lot of the other guys are dead. Tupac's dead. He was kind of an LA guy, I guess. I guess he's more New
Yeah,
York, but he kind of migrated out to LA. Yeah, it was a good one though. I enjoyed it.
it was. So I was shocked to see 50 Cent because I didn't see him on
Yeah, yeah, I didn't see him, and he's hanging upside down, looking swole.
Yes, he was.
Sticking with the NFL, I have word association here for you. So you are the only person I've ever met that has jumped off the bandwagon of a team the year they won the Super Bowl. You were a Philadelphia Eagles fan for as long as I'd known you, up until 2000. What was that, 17? You switched, became a
Yep.
Colts fan. But I have a Philadelphia Eagles word association here for you.
All right.
Starting with Donovan McNabb.
Campbell's Chunky Soup.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, that's all I can remember about him and his mom on those commercials. It was great.
Terrell Owens.
Drama queen. Sit-ups in the parking lot. Sorry. Drama queen's 2 words there, but
that's my quarterback.
Yeah, but the sit-ups in the parking, his driveway was just insane back in the day.
Brian Westbrook.
The ultimate weapon, I would say. Catches, runs, blocks. One of the best all-around backs you can see.
He was kind of like a poor man's Marshall Faulk with his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he wasn't as good a wide receiver as Marshall Faulk, but and didn't have the top end speed, but he can make the difficult catch.
Jason Kelce.
Just a beast of a center.
Travis's brother.
Man, just loves the game.
Deuce Staley.
Deuce. That's all I can remember. He was a heck of a power back.
He was. He was a big boy.
Yeah, I remember, Pittsburgh and Philly, they both had the power backs, Jerome Bennis at that time, and Philly, Deuce Staley.
Mike Vick.
Electrifying. That 2010 season was incredible. For coming out of prison to doing that, I mean, phenomenal. I think if he didn't go to prison, I think we would see him probably as MVP.
Yeah. Yeah, he obviously had those good years in Atlanta, but he was equally as good in Philadelphia there for a stretch. Shady McCoy.
Cuts. Man, that guy could just jump cut someone. It was like what we thought Reggie Bush would be in the NFL.
Yeah. He had that weird way of carrying the ball where he just hold it with one hand too.
It was way outside his body too. Fumbles could easily happen.
Yeah. Zach Ertz.
Just possession tight end, route runner, great guy, great tight end that you look for. And every NFL team looks for. Wish the Colts would have looked for something like that.
Yeah, he's still productive with Arizona this year too after he was traded.
Yep.
Jeremy Maclin.
Kick returner, punt returner, and all I'm thinking about is that kickoff he took it back against Illinois. For some reason, that's what stands out in my mind of him.
Yeah, he was real good at Missouri.
Yes, he was.
Him and Blaine Gabbert, that was kind of the duo there.
Yep.
Mark Sanchez.
Butt fumble.
Yeah, that's the only thing you can think of. Yeah. That's about the only thing he was good for, too. I mean, I guess he led the Jets to AFC title game once or twice?
Yeah, twice. It was twice. I think that's more defense, though, of that Jets team.
Yeah, that was Rex Ryan's defense. Deshaun Jackson.
Miracle in the Meadowlands Part 2.
Yep, that's when I think of Deshaun Jackson as a Philadelphia Eagle. That's the exact play I think of. I can't believe they kicked to him. Just kick it out of bounds.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I don't know why they did it. Tom Coughlin's poor decision.
Yeah, Riley Cooper.
No comment.
I'm kind of baiting you into that one. Carson Wentz.
Prima donna.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'll use quote Pat McAfee's broken man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was going to win MVP that year too before he blew out his knee, and really hasn't been the same since. He had a
No.
good year stat wise this year with the Colts, but man, did he struggle when they needed him to be good against the Raiders and Jacksonville at the end of the year.
I'll
Real
rant about
bad.
this for a little bit. I believe he thinks he can be his idol Brett Favre and make those
Yeah.
plays that Favre did, but he can't.
No, no one can. I mean, that's why he was Brett Favre. But
Right.
yeah, that's kind of a good comparison because they kind of look similar out there. Kevin Cobb.
Draft day jersey by.
I'll never forget you
Little
pulling into
throwback there.
school. Yeah, I'll never forget you walking into school wearing that jersey. And then one for fun here, Colt Brennan.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
I mean, that
you loved him at Hawaii.
He did. Him and that June Jones offense, that air raid was phenomenal. And they go to the BCS. I think they went to the Sugar Bowl and they got blown out, if I recall right. But
I don't remember who they lost to. Was it? Yeah, they got killed.
I want to say it was Florida, but I can't.
That seems right.
I want to say it had to be Florida. I don't think it was South Carolina. I know it wasn't Georgia. It was one of the SEC East teams.
When was this? The Sugar Bowl 2007. They went 12-1. They're pretty good.
Yep.
They lost to. Who'd they lose to? Hawaii. They lost to it was Georgia.
Yeah. Oh, it was Georgia.
Marcus Howard was the MVP of that game for Georgia. Yeah, 41-10. It was a whooping.
Oh, wow.
Trying to see. Colt Brennan threw no touchdowns and 3 interceptions and got benched, actually.
It was a horrible game.
He faced Matt Stafford. It's interesting.
Oh.
Yeah, Matt Stafford. No Sean Moreno was Georgia's running back, him and Thomas Brown.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a pretty good Georgia team there. But word association is brought to you by Rhett Lee, attorney at law. I do not have the reads up here, so I apologize. But word association segment brought to you by Rhett Lee, attorney at law. Before we get into college basketball, do you want to get educated today?
Yeah, educate me, J-Man.
On this day in 1887, the Cubs sold Mike King Kelly to Boston for a record $10,000.
That's a ton of money.
Yeah, back in 87. Yeah, 1887.
1887.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. Mike King Kelly, never heard of him though. On this day in, let's see, a lot of Winter Olympics. The second ever Daytona 500 was ran. Is that the word?
Yeah.
In 1960, Junior Johnson survived a 37-car crash on turn 4 to win, driving a John Massoni-owned Chevrolet.
That's when they actually did race stock cars.
Yeah.
And that was probably on sand or dirt probably at that time as well.
Oh, I bet. 1960? Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably was. On this day in 1966, Wilt Chamberlain broke the NBA career scoring record at 20,000 points, 20,884 points.
And LeBron just passed Kareem this week on the playoff and regular season combined
all time. Yeah, overall. And what's the record at now? Is it 35-ish?
I thought it was close to 35. I think it's right under. It's 34 something. I'd have to look it up.
And it's still Kareem, right, for the regular season anyway?
Yeah, LeBron has to average, I think, over 20 points next season to break it.
Oh, yeah, he'll break it.
He's going to do it.
Who won the 1971 Daytona 500?
Richard Petty?
You got it. You're a lot better than Tanner at this game. Yep, he won in 71 on this day in, oh man, 1988. Who won the Daytona 500?
I'm between two, but I'm going to say the Intimidator. Dale Earnhardt.
Incorrect. Bobby Allison beat his son Davey to the finish line.
Okay.
This one was remembered for Richard Petty's rollover crash in the Tri-Oval on lap 106. He rolled over 8 times, and he walked away unhurt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Especially they didn't have safety features back then.
Yeah, especially back then. Who won the 1993 Daytona 500?
That had to be Dale.
Right? It was a Dale, but it was Dale Jarrett.
Jarrett. Oh.
He beat Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine.
Yeah, that was I do remember seeing highlights. I mean, Dale down the backstretch took that one. So Jarrett, that is, instead of Intimidator.
Who won in 99?
I want to say Michael Waltrip, but that's not right in my head. We'll go Mark Martin.
Pittsburgh, Indiana's own Jeff Gordon.
Oh.
Yeah, he beat Bill Elliott. Nope, doesn't say who he beat.
Okay, Michael Waltrip must have been the year after.
On this day in 2010, who won the Daytona 500?
Ryan Newman?
Jamie McMurray.
Man.
Yeah.
Everything's blurring together for those years.
2019 on this day, Oklahoma City guard Russell Westbrook has a triple-double. He had 44 points, 14 rebounds, and 11 assists in an NBA record 11th consecutive game.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty
crazy. Honestly, he needs to be in a team by himself. He can't play with the Lakers.
Yeah, he's not a guy who's going to take a backseat to LeBron or Anthony Davis.
No.
And he's not nearly the type of player he was now than he was even 2 or 3 years ago. He's not as athletic. He doesn't shoot the ball well. He turns it over 4 or 5 times a game.
Yep.
He was I think most people thought he was a terrible fit to begin with in LA, and it's proven them correctly.
Yep. Washington fleeced them in that trade getting Kuzma, in my opinion. So I kudos to the Wizards.
Last one here. Who won last year's Daytona 500?
Austin Dillon?
Michael McDowell.
Oh, Austin Dillon must have won it two years ago then.
On this day, we have a new sponsor, I believe. On this day is brought to you by Mooney Woodcrafts. Thaddeus Mooney making some cool wood stuff. Tanner has some in his basement of the Tan and J-Man show right on the front. That's pretty dang cool. Yep. So go check out Mooney Woodcrafts. You want to talk some college hoops?
Yeah, we can talk some hoops. You want to start with probably the big game of the week on last Tuesday night?
Big game of the week, yes. Top 2 teams in the Big Ten. Illinois traveled to Purdue at raucous Mackey Arena, which Mackey Arena is real difficult to win in regardless. But when it's at that decibel level, I don't think any team goes in there and wins.
I would say no.
Yeah, Illinois played really well, or well enough in the first half, I should say. I think they were up 2 at halftime, but then Purdue's offense they could not stop them in the second half. I mean, Jaden Ivey got whatever he wanted. Illinois could not hit the broadside of a barn either from the floor, and Purdue ends up winning by, I think, 16 or 17?
It's 17, so because they were trying to push the margin to 20. Kurt Bella took put Illinois up going coast to coast right before the half ended and getting that lay-in. Illinois played a heck of a half. I think the turning point of that game was when Frazier bumped knees with Ivy on that play, and Frazier had to come out for a little bit. I mean,
yeah, I think they were already down 10 at that point, but that pretty much ended all hope of them coming back. Because, I mean, Frazier's one of the best defenders in the country, on-ball defenders, and Jaden Ivey still got whatever he wanted. It was a fantastic game plan from Painter in the second half. And that's as bad of a matchup for Illinois as there is in the country right now. I mean, they have the two huge big guys. Kofi's so used to playing against smaller guys where he can just dominate, but when you have 7'4" Zach Edey there, it makes things significantly more difficult.
It does, and Kofi was in foul trouble the first half, so you couldn't be aggressive. And Plummer just hitting those shots in the first half was keeping Illinois in the game. But when Eric Hunter came out and made those shots in the second half, and Edey was playing Kofi tough, so you couldn't feed the post. I mean, you're taking outside jumpers at that point. Besides Curbelo getting to the basket.
And Illinois had a lot of really wide open looks too, and they just couldn't knock them down. Which that happens. It happened for them yesterday or against Northwestern in the second half.
Yeah, it did, but I mean, those are two different opponents that Illinois was facing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I hate Sunday afternoon tip-offs before the Super Bowl. Purdue got away with one against Maryland at home, and the crowd just seemed dead. Illinois found themselves in a 1-point game with 4 minutes left against Northwestern yesterday at home, and the crowd just seemed dead. There's something about those tip-offs right before the Super Bowl that the crowd just does not seem into it for whatever reason. Both teams were lucky to get a win and keep pace with each other, but I don't want them to have to tip off before the Super Bowl ever again.
I would have to agree. I think the crowd, has other plans. Everyone has other plans, what they're doing that night. It's kind of, TV trying to fill that gap, unfortunately. Wish they probably would have put someone else because I thought I was going to have to sit here and talk about this being one of the most miserable high-low weeks of Purdue basketball history and beating Illinois on Tuesday night, but then going and getting destroyed by Michigan, which I figured probably would happen thanks Kevin Warren for scheduling that game right after the Illinois game. That was supposed to be contested back on January 11th. And then having to go play this Maryland team, which has beaten Illinois. I think they beat Michigan. Yeah, they beat Michigan State too. So, I mean, it was just a brutal stretch for Purdue, but yesterday they barely pulled it out. I know you and I were texting back and forth. You thought they were going to win, but that time there was no way.
Yeah, and there's a crazy play right at the end. I didn't see it. I heard about it where somehow Maryland got the ball back because there was a time or a clock issue.
Yep.
And because of the clock issue, Purdue wasn't allowed to run the baseline, which is
Correct.
Preposterous. It's just preposterous, especially because Maryland made 2 free throws. They should be allowed to run the baseline regardless of clock issue. So clearly, I mean, Purdue obviously didn't know the rule. And in my opinion, I think an official needs to tell them you cannot run the baseline there because it's such a weird rule. Like, who's supposed to know that?
Right, absolutely. I mean, Painter was livid.
He should be. He should have been.
And hopefully that goes against the refs come tournament time because we do not want to see that in March Madness as a fan, regardless of who's playing. We don't want to see that be the deciding outcome of a game, especially with now sports betting being so heavy in America now and being legalized in so many states. You don't want that to be the outcome of a game.
Yeah, it's every sport there's this really weird rule that you see once every 10 years, and that was one of them. And it about cost Purdue the game. I mean, Maryland had a shot down 1 with 6 seconds left, and they end up getting blocked at the rim. Travion Williams or Mason Gillis.
Yeah, Travion went straight. Yeah, Travion went straight up, got it, and Mason died on the deck, and that was ball game. After this week, I know Tanner and you talked about last week you take 2-1, and I know you were hoping 2-0 for the Illini, but I think you got to be pumped where the Illini stand. Half game up on Purdue,
and especially with Wisconsin losing at home to Rutgers on Saturday, that helps out quite a bit as well. Because they were right there.
Absolutely. I want to say this. Rutgers had the best week of all Big Ten teams. Taking down Ohio State at home. Geo Baker had a heck of a game that Wednesday night, and then going on the road and beating that Wisconsin team. In my opinion, they're a lock for the NCAA tournament.
Rutgers?
Yep.
No, not a lock. I think
they're a lock.
Trending. they're trending up to bubble team. They're not even in the conversation yet as far as getting in. Now they have a big one on Wednesday against the Illini, but I will say Rutgers does have wins. Their last 3 wins have come against Michigan State at home, Ohio State at home, and at Wisconsin. So they're trending in the right direction, but they have some truly horrendous losses on their resume that's keeping them out right now.
They do, but they also have the win against Purdue.
And they do have a win against Purdue, so they have some good wins, but their bad losses kind of offset. I mean, they have a loss to Northwestern. They have a loss to who else? They lost to Lafayette earlier in the year at home. They have a bad neutral court loss to a bad team. I mean, they have work to do. I wouldn't surprise me if they get in, but they gotta keep winning. I don't know who they play this weekend.
This week. So do you want to go into this week's matchups? I have them up. So they play Illinois this week.
Yes, and then they have Purdue on the road. So they have an opportunity.
I mean, they have an opportunity to solidify their resume if they get one. If they split this week, I think they're in because I saw last 4 projection of Michigan being one of the last 4 in.
Yeah, the metrics like Michigan a lot more than they like Rutgers. I think Rutgers' net rating is still in the 80s, which there has never been an at-large team make the NCAA tournament outside of, I think, the 50s, I want to say. So they have a lot of work to do. But, I mean, the Big Ten offers plenty of opportunity with, obviously, the rest of the regular season, but then the Big Ten tournament.
Right.
Going into this week, though, tomorrow night we have Michigan State at Penn State.
I think tomorrow, I think Michigan State's going to go in there at Penn State. I don't think Penn State's, Micah Shrewsbury is going to make that program very reputable in the coming years. But I think Michigan State gets it done. I think Malik Hall, this game Saturday against IU was phenomenal. Michigan
State needs this one. They had a home loss to Wisconsin this week. And then I checked the IU Michigan State score, and it was like, I think IU was up 1 with like 12 minutes left, and then I checked again like 20 minutes later, and IU was down 17 or something like that.
Yep.
Michigan State's kind of been sliding here recently. I think they go into Penn State and get it done, but Michigan State has not had good point guard play. They've been turning it over so much. Wouldn't surprise me if Penn State gets them, but feels like Penn State's kind of phoning it in at this point. But then again, we said that about Maryland too, and they about knocked off Purdue yesterday. So
Yep.
Tomorrow night as well, Minnesota at Ohio State.
I think it's Ohio State. I think that's just too much for this Minnesota team.
Yeah, Minnesota got whooped on the road at Nebraska last week. They did follow it up with a win yesterday against Penn State, I believe, or Saturday against Penn State.
Saturday. Yep.
But yeah, give me Ohio State. In my opinion, Ohio State's the 3rd best team in the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
Wisconsin at Indiana.
Wisconsin. I think this IU team's cooked.
Indiana
last week
was up 22 in the second half at Wisconsin earlier in the year and found a way to lose. Indiana coming off 3 straight losses. Illinois, then they lost. They were without 5 players.
5 players against Northwestern.
Still at Northwestern. And then getting blown out by Michigan State. I think IU, this is almost a must-win for Indiana, in my opinion. They have to get this one. And for whatever reason, I think they do. I don't know if it's just the Assembly Hall factor. Johnny Davis has not played that well recently. He was pretty good at Michigan State, but he has not been good for the last 5 games. Wisconsin does not have a single player that can guard Trace Jackson Davis. Give me Indiana in a real close one.
Okay.
Illinois at Rutgers.
This is, I think, one of the better matchups this week. I think Illinois is probably too much for Rutgers, but the RAC is a hard place to play at, or Jersey Mike's Center.
Rutgers plays real well at Jersey Mike's Arena. Really well. I mean, as it's been, they beat Purdue, Michigan State, Ohio State. That's why I think Rutgers does win this one. Illinois had a hard time with Ron Harper Jr. in his career. He did nothing in Champaign back in December when Illinois beat him by 35. Be a much different game. Rutgers is a much better team right now, and for whatever reason, I think Rutgers wins this one.
Okay.
Yeah, Illinois has not won in Rutgers since Brad Underwood's first year there.
Wow.
Yeah, they got beat last year, I remember. But yeah, it's been a house of horrors. And one of those games is when Io had that knee injury 2 years ago, where they thought he might be out a long time, and he ended up not being, but he missed that one. Then last year they just didn't play very well. Purdue at Northwestern.
Purdue. I mean, that one's going to be, I think, a large win. I mean, there's not this Northwestern team's not like Northwestern teams of the past, but give me Purdue.
This Northwestern team's better than they've been probably. This might be their best team since they went to the NCAA tournament. They've been so bad, but they're a scrappy bunch, and they're not nearly as bad as their record. I mean, every single game they've been in that they've lost has been by single digits. I think Purdue wins pretty handily, especially after getting that scare against Maryland on Sunday. So give me Purdue.
Yep.
Minnesota at Penn State.
It's a close game this past weekend. I'm going to say Penn State this week.
Yeah, give me Penn State. Minnesota's not very good. I mean, they were 9-0 in the non-conference, and now they're 3-10 in the Big Ten. I think Ben Johnson's going to do a pretty good job there. They just need better players at this point.
Yep, absolutely agree.
Yeah, give me that is a.
It's
that's a 3 o'clock Central Time game. That's weird.
Yeah, it is. It's a weird start time.
That's strange for a Thursday.
Because the marquee game that night is actually Michigan at Iowa.
Michigan at Iowa. Who you got?
Is Fran back?
Who?
From Coven, Fran McCaffrey? He was out.
I don't know. They killed Nebraska yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was back. So
I assume he'd be back because he missed their game early in the week too. Last week.
Give me Michigan. I mean, I think Hunter Dickinson's just too much.
Yeah, and Philip Rabracha or whatever his name is for Iowa. It's a real tough matchup for him facing Dickinson. He struggled. I mean, Kofi dominated him. Edie dominated him. Travion Williams dominated him. He's really struggled. So I think for whatever reason, I feel like Michigan gets it done on the road. Friday night, Maryland at Nebraska.
Maryland big.
Nebraska's bad.
Yeah, that's
Maryland's bad as well. Nebraska did just finally get a Big Ten win. It's not going well for Fred Hoiberg there. Give me Maryland in a close one on the road.
Yeah. I want to say it's big. Fred Hoiberg might be gone after this season.
Yeah, he tried to do the exact same thing he did at Iowa State, and I talked about this last week on the show. He tried to turn Nebraska into transfer U, but now every team is transfer U, so it's completely leveled the playing field, and you can't get that edge up now. Saturday morning, at least in Central Time Zone, we have Illinois at Michigan State.
Give me Illinois. I think this is a big game, and I think they want to win a regular season title. You got to win this game.
Got to win in Rutgers too. This will be the J-Man's Book It prediction of the week. I think Illinois splits this week. I think they lose to Rutgers, but follow it up and win in Michigan State. There are only two places in the Big Ten that Brad Underwood has not won at, and that is Maryland and Michigan State. And I think they get it done this year. Hope so anyway. J-Man's Book Prediction of the Week brought to you by Indiana Farm Bureau insurance agent Travis Watering for life, home, auto, business, renters, workers' comp, and farm insurance. Contact Travis at 219-869-4561. His email is travis.watering@infb.com.
Want to hammer through these last four games?
Yes, sir.
Iowa at Ohio State later that day on Saturday.
Give me Ohio State.
Yep, I got to say Ohio State. I think E.J. Liddell is going to have a big game on Saturday. Northwestern at Minnesota.
Give me Northwestern. I'm not a believer in this Minnesota team anymore. No, I never really was, but.
Yep, I have to agree. Give me Northwestern. Minnesota's, I think, packed it up for the year. Sunday we got two games.
Michigan at Wisconsin. Be a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's on CBS. I'm going to go Michigan. I think they go 2-0 this week.
It'd be a huge week for them to do that.
I just think
I don't
Johnny.
think Michigan's guard plays good enough. Give me Wisconsin.
Okay. Last game of the week. Rutgers at Purdue.
Give me Purdue. No one's
Yep.
winning in Mackey the rest of the year.
I think that game in December stings a little. I think they want to, get revenge. Yeah. I think Purdue wins at least by double digits on that game.
Yep. This episode is brought to you by The Damn Landing, whether you want an epic burger, hand-tossed pizza, handcraft beer. No. Let me bring up the read real quick. I tried to do it off the top of my head, and it didn't go very well. Let's see if I have the read here. I'm sure I have it. Let's see. Maybe I don't have it. You know what? I don't think I have it.
I think you're going for a handcrafted burger.
Or a handcrafted burger, hand-tossed pizza, craft beer, or a handcrafted cocktail. The Damn Landing is a place to be, located on Ewing Road in Rochester. This is a mess. But yes, the episode of the Tan and J-Man Show is brought to you by The Damn Landing. Go out in their beer garden. It's hopefully going to get warmer here within the next few weeks to a month. Go drink some beer, eat some real good food, have really good barbecue, tacos, burgers, pizza, all you could want there. So hit up the Dam. I know you said you wanted to talk a little baseball.
Yeah, I think I know you're getting excited about the season. Pitchers and catchers should have been reporting today, but
I should be.
Here we are in a lockout.
Yep, and again. The owners are the ones that have locked the players out. I mean, the owners could lift the lockout and say, you guys need to play, but they refuse to do that because they are the greediest, money-hungry people in the world. And this pissant commissioner we have here with Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred does not help matters at all, throwing the players under the bus.
Correct. And I know the owners gave a proposal on Saturday to the Players Association. It was turned down automatically. There's some big sticking points. I know you've read about it, and I think just the viewers. I think the minimum salary tiered system, I know, is a big sticking point right there. And being able to renegotiate those contracts, especially when if you're a player, you want to leverage that when you have great first, second years. I think of, Chris Bryant off the top of my head during that time.
MVP.
Yep. Man, there's some others I just can't remember off the top of my head. Chris Bryant's the one that sticks just because of this area. So if you're a player, you want to be able to leverage, out of that $600,000 contract into a minimum of $725,000, which, when you look at other professional sports, that's a very small salary compared to other major sports.
And I know they've proposed to raise the minimum wage. I think the minimum, what was it? Was it $5.75 and they want to raise it to $6.10 or something like that?
Yep.
Which that's $35,000. So that's a decent bump. But at the same time, the owners are still manipulating, or the teams are still manipulating service time, which that's a major issue.
Yep.
Which, the Chris Bryant, going back to Chris Bryant holding them down for those 8 games to get an extra year of control. Major League Baseball is not a players' league, and it should be. I think every single sport should be a players' league. The NBA is by far a players' league. The NFL is more so than Major League Baseball now. But,
Well, with that, we're talking about service times. They want to decentivize those service time manipulations. That way, it's more in the players' controls, and then those players can cash in on those, like Chris Bryant, on those big seasons. That way, they're not held hostage pretty much by just making money outside of it and actually making money on the field of play.
Right.
So the other thing I saw was, what was it? It was about draft picks. Did you see that in regards to them getting incentivized?
Yes, because for losing free agents, you get a compensatory pick. and they're trying to eliminate tanking, and there've been some really good ideas that Major League Baseball just doesn't even listen to. And I think tanking's an issue in every single sport. The Philadelphia 76ers did it for years. Trust the process, and that process is not working. I mean, the allegations against Stephen Ross offering Brian Flores $100,000 for each loss, and then what the Cubs and Astros did back in the early 2010s. It's a major issue, and I don't know how they fix it. I like the idea of the team that finishes first right outside of the playoffs. The best team to not make the playoffs gets the number one overall pick. I like that idea because it gives teams an incentive to go out and spend, and teams just have refused to spend the past 4 or 5 off seasons. Contracts are down, even though inflation's gone way up. Cost of living's gone way up. It's pathetic, and Major League Baseball is the only professional sports league that does it.
Yep, and you bring up a point, and here's the other point I couldn't believe was the minor league players that they bring into training camp. They did not want to pay them. Instead, they deemed it as a life experience.
Yeah,
and I was
which is preposterous. It's just preposterous. They already pay them less than minimum wage anyway. I think the average minor leaguer makes $25,000 a year. And the owners and Rob Manfred say, well, it's an apprenticeship. Well, you're not paying them a living wage, yet they're taking out 9 months of their year. How do you expect them to live on that?
Right. Honestly, there's smaller companies that pay interns right out of college or even journeymen out of trade schools a rate. You can't not give these players, you can't not pay them. You need to pay them. This is a mess.
Yeah, they're gonna. I mean, spring training, they haven't officially announced it, but it's gonna be pushed back. I think they'll miss at least half of April as far as regular season goes. And Rob Manfred keeps saying, if we lose games, it's just a terrible thing. That would be an absolute disaster if we lose games. Well, he doesn't do anything to help matters.
Nope.
He blames everything on the players. Well, the phones work both ways. Well, the owners went quiet for 40 straight days. Didn't do a single thing.
And they're off, I think. I think they're off by $100 million from what the owners are offering and what the players are wanting. Yeah. And more power to the players. You have these teams, large market team, and Angels, not Anaheim, Los Angeles Angels. They're wasting away at one of the best generational talents we've ever seen in baseball.
Yeah.
And
all
we hear
two of the best generational talents.
Yeah, Shohei. And I was talking to my and I know our good buddy is a White Sox fan too. They're not marketing Tim Anderson, who I think is an exciting player. They don't market their players at all, and it's mind blowing. It is just absolutely mind blowing.
It's sad, and I mean, after the Super Bowl ends, I'm usually so like, okay, if we're heading to baseball season, there's no end in sight. They said the proposal the owners made was going to be like a huge turning point in it. And it was such small, incremental little things they changed to hope it moved the ball, and it didn't do it at all.
No. I think we're at risk of not only losing part of the season, but I think we're at risk of the long-term health of this sport and generations wanting it past ours. So hopefully they can come to a resolution, but I don't think it's going to bode well for this team, this league.
We have 1 minute left here, so I'll get you Birdie Bogey real quick. Nikola Jokic recorded his 15th triple-double. 4 other guys have multiple seasons with 15-plus triple-doubles. Can you name them?
Big O.
Yep.
Westbrook.
Yep.
I want to say Michael did in one of those years. Nope. Okay.
He did not.
Wilt.
Wilt did it. Yep, he did it twice. Big O and Westbrook did it 5 times. This guy did it 3 times.
Okay. LeBron?
Nope.
Oh, man. Kareem? No, Magic.
Magic Johnson did it.
Okay.
That's a lot better effort than Tanner puts forth usually. So thank you, everybody, for watching the Tan and J-Man show. We will be back at it next Monday with another episode. Have a fantastic week, everybody.